In this video, I will briefly dive into the topic of analyzing arguments to help you prepare for your next essay, which is to write an argumentative or opinion essay. To begin with, I have a political cartoon, and if we look at this cartoon, it is being sarcastic but making an argument about the reliance that people have on Facebook for information, but that information is actually not a good source of information. It's actually a place where people can get a lot of incorrect information. So that's why the caption says that for 5 hours we were not able to be properly disinformed. So think about if you were going to write your own argument in a sentence, like you were writing a thesis statement for this cartoon, how would you express the ideas presented in this cartoon? Because there is definitely an argument being made about Facebook in this cartoon. In terms of defining an argument for writing purposes, an argument has the power to make people change their minds about a topic or allows them to really understand and accept the author's position as a valid one. Authors use arguments to try to convince their audience that their opinion is a topic that is valid. And that's what you will be doing with essay number 3. You're going to choose any topic you want, and I suggest that you choose something that you're passionate about, and then your job is to convince your readers, your audience, that your point or your opinion about the topic you choose to write about is believable and a valid opinion. A brief history of the Western ideas about argumentation comes from Aristotle. He is credited with defining 3 essential parts of an argument, and again, this is in Western ideology. There are, of course, other equally important and valid ways to analyze an argument. Because we are in a Western institution in our college, that's the type of thinking we're presented with, I am covering this line of thought, but I do want to note that, of course, this is definitely not the only way to approach an argument, and by no means the best way. We have ethos, logos, and pathos. Ethos relies on character reference to support an argument. This is done in different ways. A common way we see ethos established is by using famous people. A better way to establish ethos is to use subject matter experts. However, oftentimes readers are likely to believe an argument that is supported by a celebrity, but they're also likely to believe an argument supported by an expert. And if we're thinking critically about topics, then we know that we should be looking at an expert in a field rather than just somebody's celebrity status. We want to make sure when we are establishing ethos that the expert that we're using is in fact a subject matter expert and not just a celebrity to get that buy-in. With ethos, the writer provides the following: personal experience, or talking about someone who they know who has personal experience. The first is preferable. It's always better to use your own personal experience than to rely on second-hand information. Writers use expert support through extensive research that's up to date, and by recognizing authorities in the field. So someone who is in fact a subject matter expert regarding the topic you are writing about. When we look at celebrities, they use notoriety to convince people to accept certain opinions about topics like gun control, political candidates, and so forth. Authors quote subject matter experts in articles. Subject matter experts can be anyone who is known within the subject matter community as someone who has expertise about the subject. This could include scholars, kumus, like a kumuhula, a master journeyman, a credible researcher. It really depends on the topic to establish whether or not somebody is a subject matter expert about that topic. When you're writing your college essays, please rely on subject matter experts to establish ethos and not on celebrities. Here are a few examples of ethos. So if you were doing research about Pele, for example, Hale Ma'uma'u is erupting again. Would you listen to Dr. Pualani Kanakaole Kanahele or someone from the cast of Hawaii Five-0? This might seem kind of silly, but oddly enough, people do sometimes take the word over celebrities rather than a true subject matter expert. And Dr. Pualani is a subject matter expert, whereas these actors are just that, they're actors. They acted in a show that took place in Hawaii, but that does not mean they have any authority to speak about topics related to Hawaii, unless it's about, their experience as a cast member in this show. That would be different. The next piece we're going to look at is logos. Logos refers to logic. Writers and speakers use logos in arguments by referring to specific examples that support their argument. These examples can come from statistics, studies, interviews, and other sources. Logos supplies factual information that supports an argument. Readers are more likely to believe an argument that has factual information that supports the argument. So a well-constructed argument should rely mainly on logos. Whoops, I skipped there. A little bit more about types of logos. Facts, these are valuable because they are not debatable. They represent the truth. Examples, these include events or circumstances that your audience can relate to their life. Precedent is a specific example, historical and personal from the past. And authority, the authority must be timely, so something not outdated, and then must be qualified to judge the topic, so a subject matter expert related to your topic. I have a few examples of logos. If we click on this link to open this PDF, we will be taken to academic journal. In this academic journal article, we can see that we have a list of authors with their contact information. There's an abstract. There's a guide to keywords used in this article. This is a reliable source that provides as much factual information as possible about this topic. The next example talks about climate change impacts in the United States. This is a chapter about Hawaii and U.S. affiliated Pacific Islands. We can check out the authors and their background to see if they are in fact subject matter experts. So when you are looking at sources to use to establish logos, it's important to think about what we talked about previously in terms of evaluating sources. The next example is pathos, and pathos refers to emotions. Sometimes authors will intentionally use language about a topic specifically designed to stir up our emotions. When readers become emotionally involved with the topic, they may be more inclined to support it or not. I have an example, a couple of examples. These are designed to make people feel something. So if you feel any kind of emotion, if you feel angry, if you feel like, yes, this is a great point, this is what this cartoon is designed to do. So this is speaking about in Europe that Americans have not been allowed to travel to Europe because of the pandemic, and the many Americans who are unvaccinated, and then many Americans who choose not to wear a mask. So if you, whatever side you stand on this issue, this is designed to stir up some emotions about what's happening in Europe with the ban of American travelers. due to the pandemic and due to how politicized the pandemic has become in America. The next example is also designed to stir up emotions. And obviously we have a picture of someone who's not vaccinated depicted in a very not complimentary way. And then we have a person who is standing up for women's rights. We know what's been going on in different places like Texas with banning abortion. So this is definitely making a point that is supposed to make people feel angry, probably on both sides of this issue. So if you feel anger, if you're feeling like your emotions are stirred up from this example, that's what it's intended to do, and that's what pathos does in writing. So you have to be careful with pathos. It's a strong way to elicit emotions and get people to accept one side or another. But when you are writing something for a college course, for example, you're trying to be objective, you want to stay away from opinionated language and connotations, as we talked about previously. And then in this final slide, it's just talking about thinking for yourself. You always want to think critically to examine reason, purpose, assumptions, facts, consequences, alternate viewpoints, and personal biases before choosing to take action. And this is really important when you're writing an opinion essay, to weigh out both sides. Of course, you're writing about your opinion, but to do so in an informed and objective way. One way to do this is to recognize common logical fallacies. I have some separate videos about logical fallacies that you can watch. And I don't expect you to become experts about logical fallacies. You can take separate philosophy classes for an entire semester that talk about them. But just in general, if something seems like it doesn't make sense, it seems exaggerated, it seems opinionated, it probably is, and that's information that you should think critically about and not use as supporting points in your own writing. And that concludes this video. Thank you.